Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us here today on the I Drink From Skulls podcast. He does deals through reels. He does videos for the bros. He's the king of content, Mr. Connor Inch.
Great to be here, Matt. Thank you. That was quite possibly the best intro I've ever had, so thanks for that.
If nothing else, I tell people I have tremendous hair and I don't do a terrible intro. So there we go.
Two very true statements.
There we go. I love it.
Let's go.
I drink from skulls, drink from the skulls of my enemies.
Well, for the benefit of everyone watching along, my good man, who the hell is Connor Inch?
Oh, man. Well, that could be a very long podcast and boring podcast in itself. So I'll cut it right down. The stuff you need to know, my background is in copywriting. So I spent 4 years working as a direct response copywriter, worked for some really, really big brands. And I transitioned into content creation at the start of this year, done for you content creation, video content specifically, so reels, shorts and things like that. And yeah, we basically from start to finish help people create their content, video content, come up with the topics, do it completely scriptless, which would perhaps talk about later, and write the copy and post it for them. So in a nutshell, that is what I do.
I love it, man. But why video? Why'd you make the move from copywriting? And for people who don't know what copywriting is, it is writing the words that make people feel warm and fuzzy or take action. It's the good stuff. But why video?
Yeah, good question. It was kind of a natural progression. So I'd noticed there's a few reasons I moved to video, but I noticed the trend towards video. So a lot of my copy work started becoming script writing. People wanted scripts done, they wanted VSLs, they wanted short ads, and more content as well. So I kind of saw that as the future. The big problem I noticed as a copywriter was I'd have these visions of how an ad should look, or how a video should look, and then the client would shoot the video and they'd be awkward on screen, they wouldn't read the scripts properly, and it just would not come out how I thought it should come out. So yeah, that kind of is, I thought, well, I'm doing all these scripts, I enjoy video, I have these visions in my head, I have these ideas and not quite coming out properly, so maybe I can offer a service where we can really nail that stuff and get it right. And I think as well, video is the future. You just got to look at the stats of like TikTok, Reels, Shorts, all of that. They are getting watched more. I think as people's attention spans kind of fade away, those kind of short videos are becoming more important as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's the thing, the emergence of TikTok, YouTube Shorts. It's Facebook's doing it heavy to stay in competition. IG Reels, like that is where it's at, video content. And interestingly, for anyone else who wants to dig a little deeper, TikTok may have used to been about trending videos and doing silly dances and wearing next to no clothes and shaking your ass. But nowadays, it's completely changed, hey?
Yeah. I mean, you can still do that stuff if you're that way inclined. If you I think people pay good money to see Matt Smith doing that. But no, in all seriousness, it's as long as you don't spend. So my business is creating content for social media, right? That's what I do. But I try not to spend too much time in there doing the wrong stuff, getting distracted. So as long as you're going into social media with the right intentions of, I guess, promoting your business, but also building relationships, getting to know people, giving value, as opposed to just doom scrolling for hours on end. In that scenario, I think TikToks can be very valuable. I know people in the high ticket niche that are closing, 10, 15K packages through TikTok, That's where they're getting the leads from. So absolutely don't sleep on TikTok. All sorts of niches. I mean, even like the roofing space and stuff, there's people on TikTok that they're getting a good following, right? So people follow them on TikTok, they find out more about them, and that's where the relationship starts. I think that's where TikTok is quite powerful.
So, mate, let's dig a little bit deeper into video, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just in your experience, is there like a best practices, or is there like a guide that people can follow to ensure that their videos don't suck and that they have better impact with them?
Absolutely. So there's kind of there's a few gurus teaching to just pump out content, be everywhere. One that comes to mind is Alex Hormozi. Now, I actually like Alex Hormozi because he's telling people, he's not telling people to do that, but he does that himself. He's actually told people not to copy what he does because it won't work for you. And that's the problem is these other gurus are kind of saying you need to copy Alex Hormozi, you need to do what he's doing. And they're just creating these soulless, bland videos that, they give you a bit of a dopamine hit when you get views, but they're not really doing anything to drive the business forward, especially in saturated markets. So yeah, I think authenticity is going to be the key when it comes to creating video moving forward. That's doing it the right way. So not just creating a bunch of scripts on AI, right, and reading them off on like motivational topics that, like I said, just fuel a little bit of dopamine, but don't do anything to drive the brand forwards. So yeah, definitely avoid that kind of stuff. I think the best stuff is connecting with people on a personal level. So you can talk about boring topics, but put your own spin on it, your own uniqueness on it, if that makes sense. I definitely think that works well. So, because there's only so many things you can talk about, whether that's, in the roofing space, you talk about the different types of roofs. If it was in the marketing world, you're talking about marketing principles. There's only so many subjects you can talk about, but your uniqueness and your brand and your personality and the way you view things, that's unique to you, and that's what you've got to leverage in your across all content, short form video, written, whatever content you do. I truly believe that's what you've got to leverage.
Did you find that your copywriting skills directly related to video? Like, did it help in any way?
How do you mean?
Well, like as an example, did you find that directly speaking to people in a funny, interesting, exciting way that grabs attention was helpful for video? Like, were the skills relatable?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big example in the copywriting world is emails. You get a lot of big brands that just write very corporate and boring emails, and they make next to no money from emails. And then you've got people with very small email lists, but they're really personality-driven, entertaining, interesting emails that are unique and different. And they're making, 6-7 figures a month in some cases just from sending out a few emails a week because they are personality-driven, they're interesting. And I think that, copy, video, any market, the same things apply, right? As the market becomes more saturated and everyone's saying the same thing, you become different by being you. And being you can also be your brand, right? Your brand doesn't have to be built around you. It can be your brand identity.
So the thing, these gurus that preach, let's just copy Hormozy or copy, whoever's doing, let's get all this content out there. But they're not talking about what goes on behind the scenes. Like with Alex Hormozy, he's been open and upfront. Don't copy me, it won't work. The reason why, he has a team, he has someone filming him 24/7 pretty well. Maybe not 24/7, but most hours of the day. He has a whole production team. He has a team that posts for him. Like I believe he said he's spending at least $20K a week on content creation, and he's modeled some of the best people in each different social media platform to get the best results. Like, so if you're going to try and emulate that, it's not going to work for you. But what he does say that works, and this is something that you've helped me with personally, is being yourself, having a strong message, being unique, not just talking about the one thing all the time, your business. If that's all you do, people will switch off. But it's about connecting with people through your values, through your uniqueness, having a bit of humor, a bit of family stuff. That's what that type of mix is what works well. Is that right?
Yeah, 100% agree. So for Alex as well, you've got to remember he's known in the industry, he's established in the industry, he's been a pioneer of a lot of things, right? So the average person doesn't have the clout that he has. So yeah, absolutely, you want to be talking about other things, and it's funny because the stuff that's not work related, this is still going to build and nurture that relationship with people. I kind of see it as like these short videos as, and people describe it in a different way. Some people see it as a way to get people into your sphere in the first place, which I agree, especially with TikTok, for example. That is one part of it. But these videos are also like, when you're creating video content, it's nurturing. It's like an email nurture sequence for any marketers listening. That's like you're building a relationship with people over time because they're consuming your videos. It's like a lead magnet on steroids, right? Because a lead magnet, someone downloads a PDF that they never read. Great, awesome. Whereas if they start following you and start consuming like a minute here, a minute here, a minute here, before you know it, they've consumed 30, 40 minutes of your content, kind of micro doses of your content, and they've seen your personality, they've connected with you because you've got a family or you've got kids or you're single and you're a baller and you're driving a Lambo, whatever it is that connects with your audience. They've seen that and they feel like they know you and they trust you, they like you, and they're kind of primed to buy from you by that point.
It's opening things up a little bit here, like trying to copy people that have big teams. That's a really hard thing to do. But where could someone start? Like how could someone start creating some content that's actually going to resonate with people? What would you recommend there?
Yeah, good question. It's kind of hard to give a one-size-fits-all answer, right? Because every situation is different. But I guess a few fundamentals you can think of is, what does your audience want to hear about? That's the first place to start. And then tying that in with you. So you've got to talk about what your audience wants to hear about, but it also needs to be authentic from you. So you've got to find that sweet spot of authenticity and kind of giving them what they want. So I think that's definitely one place to start. Look at their dreams, their hopes, their fears, those things, and speak to them. Desire is a good one to speak to as well. And then just being authentically you. I think stuff you do that you might think is boring is actually super interesting to other people. So take you, Matt, for example, the fact that you work with your wife, right? That's super interesting to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that would aspire to that. There's people like me that couldn't imagine anything worse than that. But it's still something to talk about that is, it's interesting and that's personal. So talking about your kids, like you've said already, I think giving actionable tips is good as well, but it's good to pepper that in with other stuff, right? Because you risk becoming like a guru teacher and no one really wants to be taught anything. So when you do teach, do it occasionally, give them something that's actually useful and of value, and do it in an entertaining, quick, concise way. So you're not lecturing them, you're just giving them something tangible. So whether that is a framework that you use for copywriting, for example, or a quick way to close more clients in your roofing and contracting business. The sentence you can use that doubles your sales, stuff like that. It hooks people in because it's interesting, it's appealing to their desires, but it's also actually giving them something of use that they can go out and use. That also helps establish you as an authority, right? It's doing lots of things in that, that 40 second to 60 second clip. You can achieve a lot in that short period of time, creating authority, establishing trust, giving something of value, and that know, like, and trust factor, that authenticity. There's lots going on in a very short clip, done right.
Yeah. And then just the volume of it, hey, like if there's there's a good variety of content. That's something I've noticed with my videos that you've made with me. I'll speak to someone. I'm all about organic content. That's our only attraction method. We do content and people follow along and engage with us. But the cool thing that I've noticed after I do a consult call, or I might get shouted out in a Facebook group as being recommended. Guess what they do next? They go and look at all my content, and whilst it just used to be funny memes and silly things and great results, there wasn't a ton of like actionable value. But now there is. And it's been so interesting where I'm doing a sales call and they quote me on some of the things I said. I'm like, oh, well, you said you'd do this. Can I go and speak to 3 people? Like, absolutely. Because I know no one else is doing that. So it further positions you. And it's been so powerful. That one thing I've noticed with content, I've tried a few different models, tried doing it myself, and the quality was never there. We've always done well with it, but it wasn't consistent enough. Because the one thing I know about being a very busy business person, or dare I say it, entrepreneur, is that time is hard to come by. And if you don't schedule it and you don't plan it for your content, it just isn't going to happen. So I've tried videographers, and it was always difficult to, get a good volume of content done versus the time that I do have available. But I recognize and understand the value of having great content. It's where you need to be right now, any industry. And that's when, I met yourself and you started talking to me about what you do and how you put it together. So I'd love to hear more about, I know this is a bit long-winded, but the pains and struggles that you see with a business owner who knows and understands that they need content, but they feel like they don't have enough time. They don't know what to say. Like, these are the big problems with creating content. Most people can't just go boom and do a great video. I can do it every now and again, but not consistently. And that's where I met you. That's where you came in. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really comes down to your zone of genius, right? So, if, for example, if someone listening to this is a roofer, your zone of genius is not sitting in front of a camera and knowing what to say, or writing a script and reading a script, right? Your zone of genius is selling, it's growing your business. It could be, laying roofs, whatever it is. It's probably not creating content, right? So I think to have an effective content creation strategy when you are not a content creator, it's about leveraging your time effectively. So it's not having to think about what to say. It's not having to read scripts. And a lot of these pain points come from, like I said earlier, from my copywriting journey, but also from myself. I remember the first video I shot for the video business. The first video I shot was a 3-minute VSL. It was scripted, despite me advertising the fact that the business is, we do unscripted. The VSL I created, so the video sales letter, the ad I created for the business. It took me probably the best part of 6 hours to do a 3-minute video because I just kept stumbling on the words. Yeah, honestly, the script, I just could not read the scripts because I can't do script reading. I'm better now, but I rarely do script. I've seen that myself with clients in the copywriting world. They cannot read scripts. They're doing take after take after take after take, or you can see them reading the lines like that, or they're looking away, reading the lines are coming back. It just doesn't work for most people, right? We're not TV presenters and teleprompters. You try to use a teleprompter and you try to catch up with it, and then it slows down and it's just all over the place. So that's a big pain point for me personally, and for a lot of people that I work with. Yeah, all over the place with the scripts. And then the ideation, like I said, it's not everyone's zone of genius creating content. So, what do I talk about? Because there are only so many things you can talk about, you need to get good at saying the same thing in 100 different ways, right? So you have like 10 things you might talk about, but you talk about them from 100 different angles.
Yeah.
I just kind of reverse engineered everything as I created this business, and I improved it as I went. I was just thinking of all the pains that people go through, speaking to people about, what they struggle with. And it was the script reading, it was the creating scripts, it was knowing what to talk about, but it was also the consistency, like you said. So I don't know if you've been guilty of this, but I definitely have as well. You get a flurry of motivation and you create a bunch of content and you post day after day for like 2 weeks, and then you fall off for like a month.
Yeah, that happens to all of us for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So the consistency is a hard one. So there was that. And then once you've created the video, you've got to post your video and you've got to write copy to go with that. You've got to write captions to go with that as well. So not only have you had to think about the video, think about the topic, what to say on the video, how to act on the video, the hooks of the video, do you need call to actions, all that stuff you've got to think about when creating a video. You've then got to write something about the video to get people to watch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that as well. So we've kind of removed all of that. For our clients that don't have marketing teams or want us to do so, we actually post for them as well. So we literally removed every single pain point around content creation, pain points I felt myself or pain points I'd noticed through my clients, removed all of them to make creating consistent videos easy, enjoyable, but also effective, right? Everything I learned as a copywriter, kind of use that to help get the best out of people when we do these scriptless virtual recording sessions that I do with you. I'll talk to you and I'll get the best out of you. I'll get your hooks. So I'll find the buried things, stuff you might say that doesn't seem relevant to you is super, super interesting. Just really help them get the best and create the best content possible.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk a little bit more about Scriptless. We kind of touched on, it means being natural. It means being yourself. It means we're not looking away, looking back, trying to read words and being stiff as a board. Like that's what I've sort of picked up out of it. When I was doing video, like we had a video team, they were cool dudes and everything. I needed to come up with the script, the angle, the concept, all that stuff. And then I'd need to memorize it, perform it, and I'd do that on the back end of a really busy day. And sometimes you've seen me, just fright, just not up to that. But that's something I really valued with the way you put things together in terms of your service delivery, is that number one, it's time blocked. So that's a major takeaway for anyone who wants to give this a go themselves, is you have to allocate time either once a month, once every 2 weeks. There has to be time dedicated on your calendar to creating the content. And you need to have those ideas, the concepts, the angles, the hooks pre-done. This is what you provide for me. And you come with, there's so many different great topics and they're ready to rock and roll. And so let's talk a little bit more about Scriptless and why that's important and just how you put it together.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've already kind of shat on scripts a little bit. And don't get me wrong, like for some people, scripts are a good idea. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, it can work.
Yeah. Very few people, mainly psychopaths.
For the most part.
Yeah, it's mainly psychopaths that are good at reading scripts. No, in all seriousness, it's not for most people. So it's not just the removing the awkwardness of reading a script, right? Because I did find people that were awkward of reading scripts, they'd jump on a podcast and they'd be really good at talking on a podcast. I'd meet with them on a Zoom meeting and they'd do really good. So I was like, okay, well, there's something to this. But it also allows you to share like your genius and your expertise in a genuine way, right? So let's say you're not even writing your own scripts. You're saving time because you're hiring a copywriter to write the scripts for you. My background is copywriting. How the fuck is a copywriter able to know every single bit of knowledge that you have accumulated over the last, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, however long someone's been in the industry? They can't do that. Even the best copywriters in the world cannot. They will not be able to gather every insight and thought pattern and experience you've had. So by meeting, just having a topic. So we're not just meeting and it's chaos on the calls, right? We have select topics. So for you, Matt, it's 20 topics a month. So we've got these 20 topics we'll talk about. And by having conversations and me asking questions and kind of guiding you, we get some really good shit out of that. And that's kind of to me, that's the advantage of going scriptless. And in a world where, as I've said before, AI is going to be used more and more to create scripts. Everyone's doing the same boring content. I think having the ability to extract that authenticity and your unique experiences and worldviews, I think that's super powerful. And I think that needs to be done when you create your videos. So I would encourage most people when they're creating their video content to not use scripts all the time and to just try and just ramble. If you're creating it yourself, just ramble for a bit and just have a think about, try to inject your unique views into the stuff you're talking about.
Alrighty, so I'd like to sort of, before we wrap things up, I'd love to drop some value to people. Where could they get started if they wanted to make 3 videos today? What would you recommend? Is there some hooks? Is there some angles? What would you do?
That's good. Good question. I think a good place to start, a video I really like is what I call like a direct brag video. It's just telling people what you do and what you've achieved. Because I think my experience with the people I've worked with, a lot of them haven't done that. And I have no idea what they've achieved until we kind of discuss these things. So I think that's a really good video. And it's not coming across like as a douchebag, right? You're not standing in front of a Lamborghini burning cash because you're making so much money or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's a good way to frame it, right? It's to talk about your clients instead of you. So our clients, we've been able to help them scale to X, Y, and Z. Or, we've helped, for roofers, for example, we've worked with over 200 homes and families in the local community, giving them better roofing, nicer houses and blah, 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 whatever it is you do. So I think a direct brag it can be a very powerful one because people are almost timid to do it, right? They're almost shy to do it. And I've been guilty of that as well. And also, I think a lot of people, especially more successful people, bigger businesses, they might become desensitized to their achievements. So they don't realize actually how amazing their 20 years in the marketing world has been, and all these things they've done are very inspirational and incredible, and also gives them a lot of credibility and authority. So yeah, I think that's a really good video to make. I think a tip video, so giving a tip, nice and short, keep it fairly surface level. You don't want to go on and on and on. And then you can just have a call to action for more tips. So it might be something like, here's 3 ways to increase X, Y, and Z, whatever it is your target wants to increase or improve. So that kind of thing. Or like for the roofing home improvement niche, it might be, here's 3 types of roofing material you should never have in your house. Here's why. Just something that's of interest or useful and valuable to the people. And then at the end, just tell them, hey, if you like this, give me a follow. Or if you like this, let's have a chat. We can help you out with some more stuff.
Nice.
Sharing something personal. I think vulnerability is very powerful in video, but you have to do it well, right? If you are coming across as a chaotic person, just like waving that big red flag, like I've got all these issues, that is not the way to do vulnerability. But if you talk about something like you've struggled with in the past, that you managed to overcome it, I think that can work very well. Especially if it's relatable to your audience. And if not your own vulnerability, then perhaps like a customer's vulnerability, a client's vulnerability, that you can share that story and show that you are actually a human, you have empathy, and just connect with people. But yeah, I can't stress enough, don't come out with your emotional baggage and your trauma online, because that's just going to repel people. And I see it done, and it's painful to watch sometimes. It's painful to watch. So yeah, that's what I do. I do the brag, the tip, and some kind of vulnerability post.
Nice. That's fantastic. Anyone who doesn't do that, they're crazy. They mustn't want to connect with people, make more money, help some people. You got to do that stuff. With that in mind, Mr. Connor Inch, how can people connect with you? How can they find out more about your service? Obviously, I highly recommend you. I'll say that again. I highly recommend Connor. It's been super powerful for us. Working with him makes the process very seamless, very simple. The content is fantastic. Makes me look good. I don't hate that. So how can people find you, my man, and get more information about you?
It's easy to make you look good, Matt. It's easy.
Hey.
The best way to connect with me is actually I like Facebook. I like having conversations with people. So it's just my name, Connor Inch. I have an unfortunate last name, so I'm quite easy to find. It's Inch as in the measurement, so INCH. If you did want to check out my website, I mean, that doesn't give necessarily the best indication of what I do, but it will give you a rough idea. It's multiplymymedia.co. That's .co. So that's the best website. But yeah, honestly, the best way is to just connect with me on Facebook, and we just talk on there. That's it, really.
Beautiful. That's how I do it too. So yeah, if you can't get in contact with Connor, just hit me up and I'll connect you guys in a group chat. That's how we do it. Connor is a fellow skull taker, so I'm more than happy to connect anyone with him. Well, that's it from us for another episode of the I Drink From Skulls podcast. Connor, you've been fantastic. Thank you, my man.
Thanks, Matt. It's a pleasure.
Let's go.
I drink from skulls, drink from the skulls of my enemies.